So the topic is love, and we have 40 minutes. 40 minutes of love. Let's Chabad. What exactly is love? Isn't that a good question? Everybody talks about it, everybody wants it, nobody knows what it is. What exactly does it mean? You know the popular book, The 5 Love Languages? There are 5 different languages. Can be very confusing. Everybody's talking about love, but it's in 5 different languages. Who understands whom? So let's talk about it for a little bit, just to clarify the subject. First of all, it would seem that love is an emotion that is the pursuit of closeness. When you love somebody, what you're feeling is a need or a desire for greater closeness, which means somebody appeals to you for whatever reason, and that appeal demands more. You like a person, you want more. So love means literally pursuing more closeness. When we say Avas Hashem, we mean pursue closeness. Romantic love, when we use love in that sense, or in that, it means a pursuit. You don't have love. It's not a fixed thing. Love means I'm pursuing something. When I stop loving, I stop pursuing. I don't want to get any closer. Does that mean I stopped loving you? Here's where it gets confusing. What is self-love? Everybody loves themselves. But when you love yourself, are you trying to get closer? You're running after yourself? So what is self-love? Which is really the origin of all love. Because if you didn't love yourself, you wouldn't know what love is. And yet, loving yourself is like a completely different experience because it's not a pursuit. So what exactly is love? To clarify things, love is used in Yiddishkeit, in Torah, love is used in 2 separate and different meanings. Sometimes love means the pursuit. You know there's an Eibishter, you depend on him, get closer. Pursue closeness. Get to know him better, serve him better, you'll get closer. Avas Yisrael is the same thing. He's your fellow Jew, you're connected, you're related, but get closer. Don't just leave it that way. Pursue closeness. But then there are times when the Torah uses the word ahava, and it really means not a pursuit of closeness, but a sense of preciousness. Self-love doesn't mean you love yourself. That's weird. Self-love means you are precious to yourself. So Chassidus gives an example. What is a good example of self-love? When you're sleeping, completely deeply asleep, and some danger starts to approach your house or your room, you wake up. Why? What wakes you up? Well, let's not get so dramatic. Why don't you roll off the bed? When's the last time you rolled off the bed? Children roll off the bed. You have to have a crib. An adult usually doesn't roll off the bed. But how do you do that? Like, you sleep on a double bed. And then you go visit somebody, and now you're sleeping on a single bed. How come you don't roll over off the bed thinking that it's a double bed? So it's an amazing thing how your brain adjusts. Okay, this is a single bed. We'll roll a little less tonight because we don't have that much room to... And even when you're deeply asleep, you are aware that the bed has a limit, and if you go past that limit, it's going to be pretty shocking. That comes from self-love. But you can't say that comes because you want to be closer to yourself. It's the self-love that makes you precious to yourself. And because you're precious to yourself, you're going to be careful not to hurt yourself. So if there's a danger, it'll wake you up. And if you're on a bed, you know when to stop, even while you're completely asleep. That comes from being precious. Which clears up a very confusing thing. There are people who claim that they don't love themselves. In fact, they hate themselves. Quite a common thing. So when you say, V'ahavta l'reacha kamocha, you should love another person like yourself, they say, well, I don't love myself, so I'm not going to love you. To the degree that I love myself, to that degree I can love others. But that's not true. Every mother loves her children, is that true? It should be true. We're trying. Unconditional love, isn't that what everybody wants? Unconditional love. You make your husband miserable, not that you're not nice. You're testing him to see if his love is unconditional. Does he love you only when you're nice? Or does he love you unconditionally? And of course, with children, you have to love your children unconditionally. That is confusing. In fact, it's a little dangerous. When you tell a child, I love you unconditionally, the child feels rejected and insulted. Surprised? If you tell a child, I love you unconditionally, no matter what you do, no matter how you behave, no matter what you say, no matter how you turn out, I will love you. You know what that sounds like? You don't matter, what you do doesn't count, it doesn't make any difference, I decided to love you, that's what I'm going to do. You can stand on your head, it's not going to help. I'm loving you. And the kid is thinking, so I don't mean anything to you? He said, what? I love you. The kid said, then why don't you get angry at me when I'm misbehaving? Unconditional love means I decide that I want to love you, and now there's nothing you can do about it. So I'm not reacting to you, I'm not responding to you, it doesn't matter whether you're nice, you're not nice. That feels like a rejection. So what do the kids do? They try to behave so badly that they're going to force you to admit, okay, now I don't love you. Okay, this has gone already too far. So people say, no. Even when you hate your child, you really love him. I don't even know what that means. What is true, even when you hate your child, the child is precious. In other words, you're not feeling very close, and you don't want more closeness. You need a break. You need a vacation from this kid. You don't want more closeness. But precious? So what is unconditional? A parent says to a child, you are mine, unconditionally. That's called loving someone like yourself. Because when you hate yourself, and you can, and sometimes you have good reason, it's justified, you hate yourself, But even when you hate yourself, you're gonna wake up at the edge of the bed. You're not gonna roll over because you're still precious to yourself. So what is unconditional? Unconditional is, you are important to me even when I hate you. Now that's unconditional. You are mine even if I hate you. And that's true. When you hate your child, you're not his mother anymore. That's true. You are mine. That's an unconditional. You're stuck. I bought a little pillow for my in a souvenir store. It was embroidered. It's a little couch pillow. It says, "I'm smiling because you're my sister." So I bought it for my sister. But on the back it says, "And I'm laughing because there's nothing you can do about it." Now that's unconditional. You're my sister, unconditional. Do I love you? Not right now. Depends on how you behave. And the same is true in the Torah. When the Torah says that God loves us, it doesn't always mean romantic love. Because there are times in the Torah where it says that the Eibishter is disgusted with us. He can't take us anymore. He wants to quit. But, Bonaihem, you're my children, so what am I going to do? I'm stuck with you. So you are precious to me. You are mine. You belong to me, and I belong to you, even when I hate you. So there are some things that are factual, and there are some things that are emotional. Emotional love cannot be unconditional, because then it stops being an emotion. Emotion means I'm reacting to you. The fact that a child can push your buttons, that's love. Because if you don't love, you don't react. So if a child can get you angry, that's an emotion. If he gives you pleasure, nachas, that's an emotion. But if you say, no, I'm just going to love you, you're not reacting to the child anymore. You decided that you're going to love, and it's no longer a reaction because right now the child is not lovable. How come you don't notice that? And the child wants you to notice that. So far, what do we know about love? There are two meanings to love. One is the pursuit of closeness, and the other is a condition of importance and preciousness. So maybe you've heard the story, but it's a good illustration. This 14-year-old boy and his friend in Minnesota decided to kill themselves. They tried to kill themselves. They didn't succeed. So now the police separated the two boys and sent them to two different hospitals. The hospital has a psych ward where they evaluate people to decide whether they're criminal or insane. So this 14-year-old boy is in that psych ward of the hospital for 48 hours to decide whether he's just a bad kid, a dangerous kid, or he needs help. Most of the people there are adults, and they are seriously dangerous people. So it's more like a prison than a hospital. Even though it's in the hospital building, it's the 6th floor, and it's a jail. It's got barred windows. The nurses carry tasers and handcuffs, and nobody is allowed up there. So the mother of this boy could not visit him. So she asks me, The only people who can go are clergy. So she asks me if I would go visit him. Now, I don't know her, I don't know the boy, total strangers. She just needed a rabbi. So I've been up there a few times, and the thought of a 14-year-old kid among these maniacs is scary. So of course I agreed to go. I get off the elevator on the 6th floor, and the first thing I see is 2 nurses wrestling this guy to the ground, getting him into handcuffs. And he's screaming like a madman, and other people from down the hall are reacting, and the place is like, it's really dangerous, crazy place. I go to the kid's room. He's lying in bed, calm, relaxed, like he's in camp. And he's reading a comic book or something. He doesn't even look up. I said, "Hi, how are you doing?" I said, "Your mother asked me to come see you." Doesn't even look up. I said, "Your mother's really worried. What should I tell her?" Nothing, nothing. I try and try. The kid is not even bothering to look up. Finally, he says, "Why don't you go home? The chaplain has already been here." I said, "Really? What did the chaplain say?" "Something stupid." I said, "What did he say that was so stupid?" "The chaplain said I shouldn't kill myself because God loves me." So I said, "That's stupid?" He says, "Yeah." I said, "I agree." I agree, because I can't imagine God loves you. You're an obnoxious brat. So he looked up. And he says, "Yeah. What's your point?" I said, "God created you. Obviously, he needs you. You're a piece in the puzzle. Without you, the whole puzzle is incomplete. So he needs something from you, so he's stuck with you. I don't think he likes you. There's nothing to like." He says, "Well, what if I don't want to do what God created me for?" I said, "Well, that's freedom of choice. That's bechira. You can either do or not do." The conversation lasted for about 5 minutes, and there was... But driving home, I realized that I had just learned something really important. Why did he think that God loves you is stupid? He tried to kill himself, not because he has terrible problems. He tried to kill himself because why not? What's the difference? If I'm here, I'm not here, what's the difference? So, why not? So by trying to kill himself, he was making a loud statement. I'm not necessary, it doesn't matter if I'm here or not here, so 14 years, enough, let's try something else. Now the chaplain comes and says, I know, but don't kill yourself because God loves you. And to him, that sounds stupid. If I'm not even necessary, what good is the love? Do you hear this? I mean, this is really, it's like a new phenomenon in the world. Who ever rejected love in the past? All of Christianity succeeds because the message is God loves you. Oh, God loves me? That's it, I'm converting. All of a sudden, God loves me, that's stupid. And it is. It is. So here's what I learned from this incident. A human being needs to be needed more than he needs to be loved. Because if I'm not needed, love doesn't make any sense. So if a parent would say to a child, we don't really need you. You're not exactly necessary, but you're so cute. So we love you. That makes it sound like a pet. What do you love that you don't need? A guinea pig? A rabbit? A goldfish? A parrot? What do you have that you don't need but you love? So if you say to a human being, I don't need you, I just love you. Excuse me, I'm not your pet. Human beings can't handle that. If I'm necessary, if I'm important, if I am needed, and you love me, nice. Makes doing what you need from me easier. So if you need me, then I have a life, even if you don't love me. But if you add love to the need, then I will do what is needed from me, and I will do it happily. Otherwise, I'll just do it, because that's my life. So it turns out a human being, unlike an animal, needs to be needed more than he needs to be loved. So imagine a man says to a woman, please marry me. You got to marry me. You have to marry me. I can't live without you. Should she marry him? You already said no. Quick decision here. Should she marry him or should she run away? Run away. Look, if he means what he's saying, he's a very sick person. I can't live without you? Oh, you need therapy. Serious therapy. Why would I want to marry you? I don't want to be your nurse. And if he doesn't mean what he's saying, why would you want to marry him? He lies. So there was a comedian who said one of her routines was, I don't trust men. You can't trust men. I learned the hard way. I had a boyfriend. He told me that if I ever left him, he would kill himself. So I left him. Can't trust men. They never do what they promise. So if a man says, I can't live without you, aren't you curious? Say no, just to see what would happen. Because he can't live without you. Would he die like right away on the spot? So if a man says, I can't live without you, don't marry him. But on the other hand, suppose a man says to you, please marry me. Please, you got to marry me. I can live without you. That's very rare. Such an honest person. Really impressive. But would you marry him? Okay. You can live without me. Sei gesund. Go for it. So what should a man say? A man should say, please marry me. I can exist without you. I can even fry an egg. I can open a can. I can even do laundry. I can exist without you. But to exist without you is meaningless. It's not a life. Which means I'm not looking for love. I'm looking for you. What exactly are you marrying when you get married? What's happened in America, love became the biggest, the most important, the greatest thing, and you marry for love. Doesn't that sound beautiful? But what does that, say that again? You're marrying for love is exactly the same as saying you are marrying love, not the person that you're loving. And that's why as soon as you fall out of love, marriage is over. Why? You didn't marry her. You married love. And there's no love. So, bye. And this is the first time when I came to Minnesota as a naive bacher, or just newly married. This guy said to me, I'm getting divorced. Which, in those days was pretty shocking. He says, I'm getting divorced. I don't need this. I had never heard that expression before. And I was wondering, you're divorcing her because you don't need this? If you don't need this, get rid of this. Why are you getting rid of her? You thought you liked this. You don't like this. You want to try that. Okay. Why are you divorcing her? So it turns out there was no her. In his mind and in his thinking, there was no her. It was either this or that. So he tried this. He's going to try some of that. What about her? Yeah, what about her? So marrying out of love means marrying love, not the person you love. So I say this to people, and they say, what do you mean marry her, not love? What am I marrying her for? Now we've gotten to the heart of the problem. You're marrying her for something? That's not marriage. Marriage means you want her in your life. For what? For what? That's horrible. A mother tells me that she has a hard time getting along with her daughter. 13-year-old girl. No, there's no relationship. It's So I said, every time you go out, ask your daughter to come with you. You're going on an errand. Your daughter's going to stay home alone, and you're going to ask her to come with you. She said, for what? For what? Do you see the problem? For what? For nothing. She's your daughter. Ask her to come with you. She said, what will we talk about? You have to prepare a speech for your daughter? You have to plan what you're going to speak about? Don't speak about anything. She said, then what's it for? Do you see what the problem is here? A relationship that is real is not for something. It is itself precious. If you're marrying for love, then you're not married to him. You're married to it or this. And when this fails, there's no relationship. So, getting married, having a real relationship, is not about love. It's about a person. The thing that is destroying marriages all over the world is love. Because love has become more important than the person. So here's how we should look at it from a Torah perspective. Love is not important. Love is the feeling you should have for those people who are important. If someone is important, you should love him. If you don't love him, he's still important. If he's not important in your life, but you love him, he's still not important. But in this crazy thinking of secular, if I love you, you are the most important person in the world. When I stop loving you, you're useless, you're nothing, you're worse than nothing. How arrogant is that? My love makes you important. When I stop loving you, you're not important. That's crazy. So here's the summary. You can put it on a bumper sticker on your car. Nothing you get from your husband should ever be more important than your husband. So why is his love important to you? Love is not important. He's important. But if he is important, then the love becomes meaningful. His love. Final thought. You never hear a mother say to her children, you know, if you don't love me, it's okay. You're not the only children in the world. The neighbor's children love me. You never hear a mother say that. How come? Because a mother doesn't need love from her children. If an adult needs love from children, that's a serious problem. That's like you never grew up. You need love from a kid? Oh, my kids don't love me. Grow up. If you really need love from your children, or you really need love from your husband, go home to your mother. She'll love you. Unconditionally. So, you don't need love from your husband. I mean, if you really need love, don't get married. Stay home with mommy. And if your mother doesn't love you, marriage isn't going to fix that. So if you need love, don't get married. Why would a mother never say, neighbor's children love me? Because she's not looking for love from her children. She's looking for her children's love. Did that make any sense? I don't need love. But if you're my best friend, what do you mean you don't love me? Then how are you my best friend? In other words, if you are important to me, then your love becomes important too, because it's your love. Not because I need love. I need you, which includes your love. So if you're loving somebody else, then I don't really have you. And I want you. But suppose you have a husband who doesn't love anybody. He has no love. That's perfect. You're not missing anything. He's giving you everything he has. He does not have love. So imagine you're married to a guy, very nice, very good, he doesn't have any money. Oh, that's not a good example. But you're going to divorce him because he doesn't have money? All right, don't answer that. But let's say he doesn't have a boat. Oh, without a boat, I'm sorry, I can't. If you don't have, you don't have. If you don't have it, I don't need it. Because all I need is you. So everything about you, I need. If you don't have it, if it's not part of you, I don't need it. So marriage means I need you. And once I need you, everything about you has suddenly become important. Because it's you. A guy who's looking for love, that's what he wants. He's looking for someone who will love him. Turns out his wife doesn't love him. What is he going to do? He'll go to somebody else. Because he has to have love. So what is the excuse that all the men who misbehave, what is their excuse? My wife doesn't love me. She loves me. And that, like, justifies what he did. And that's true if marriage meant finding love. So if you're looking for love, it's dangerous. Because if you're not, like, if your children won't love you, you're going to go next door. That's weird. But if you're looking for your child's love, where are you going to go look? You can't get your child's love from somebody else's child. You can't get your husband's love from someone who's not your husband. So if he doesn't love you, what are you going to do? Make him miserable. Which is good. I mean, that's what marriage is. You just don't go elsewhere. Because you don't want love, you want his love. Why? Because he's important to you. So where does love fit in? Somebody is important to you, you should love him. And if you don't love him, try tomorrow. Maybe next week. As long as he's important to you. So when the Torah says you should love God with all your heart, doesn't that show how important love is? No, it shows how important God is. And when it says that you should love your fellow Jew, see how important love is? No. See how important the Jew is? On what grounds can you say love every Jew? I once asked a guy, very frum, I said, do you love Jews? You have Avas Yisrael? He says, of course. I said, of course? Have you met some of the Jews I've met? What do you mean, of course? What he meant was, it's a mitzvah, I'm frum, so I didn't ask you if you're frum. I want to know if you like Jews. He says, of course. No, that means you don't like anybody. Do you love Jews? No, it's a mitzvah. I didn't ask you if you do mitzvahs. I'm asking you, do you love a Jew? He doesn't. He doesn't even think he's supposed to. That's terrible. So when it says love every Jew, why is that possible? Because every Jew is precious. Whatever is precious, you should love. So what's love got to do with it? A guy is running down the street. And you stop him and you say, what's the matter? He says, my wife is not feeling well. I'm going to get the doctor. So you say, wow, you love your wife. He says, I didn't say anything about love. In fact, lately, we haven't even talked for a week. Would you then suggest, in that case, why do you have to run? Where are you running? Slow down. Let's have a coffee. You'll go for the doctor later. What would he say? He would say, are you crazy? My wife needs a doctor. So you say, but you don't love her. He would say, what's love got to do with it? She needs a doctor. Which means love comes and goes. Sometimes you feel it, sometimes you don't. It's up, it's down. But your wife is your wife. The preciousness and the importance never changes. So why do you run to get a doctor? Out of love? No, out of connection. If you weren't feeling well, would you run to the doctor? Only if you love yourself. So here's the secret to the whole story. Love is not important. Love is appropriate for those who are important. Make sense? So you don't need love from your husband, you need your husband's love. If you're not getting it today, tomorrow. If we start thinking that love is the end goal, we're worshiping idols. If you want God to love you and that's why you believe in God, then you're believing in love. That's an idol. And every idol disappoints. So don't worship love, worship your husband. Why is that funny? If I said to a room full of men, worship your wives, I don't know if I can do that, but it sounds really good. Worship your children, worship your husband, worship your parents, and worship God. You know what that means? To worship somebody means, I can't imagine how you could be more perfect. I can't imagine how you could be more perfect. Like sometimes, when the kids are sleeping, and you look at them and you think, perfect. Not the sleep, the kid. The chat is perfect. No complaints. I wouldn't exchange this for anything. This is perfect. That's called worship. So what does it mean to worship God? To worship God means perfect. Perfect. You could worship your husband. It wouldn't hurt. But worship is so much more important than love. Because to feel needed is more important than to be loved. So if you know that your husband needs you, then you love him today, tomorrow, last week. The love will come. But you got to know that you are necessary. You are indispensable. Then his love becomes important. That's a much more Jewish way of thinking. And that's why your grandmother got married without love. How did that work? Because she knew she was needed. Somebody became important to her, so she loved it. Maybe not immediately, but that's what we mean when we say love will grow. How do you know love will grow? Maybe hate will grow. Hate grows too. But if he becomes important to you, so when a person says, I love you, that is not the best sentence in the world. Because it starts with I. And you are the last word in the sentence. So I love you is a little selfish. I and me, that's for sure. Love, yeah, I got to have love. You, if not you, somebody else. That's a nasty sentence. And yet everybody goes crazy. I love you, that's it. It should be the other way around. You, I love. You. Not I love love. You, I love. And that's why under the chuppah, the man says to the woman, Harei at mikudeshes li. He doesn't say, I love you and I'll cherish you and I'll protect you and I'll be till death do us part. Don't lie under the chuppah. If any place, a moment of honesty, stop the lying for a minute. So what does the guy say? He says, Harei at, you are hereby, and no woman knows the end of that sentence, because they don't care. When he says, you are, got it, you're my husband. But if he starts saying, I love you, not so good. You start the sentence with you. This is about you. Not how I feel and how much I feel. This is about you. You, whatever. Ask any married woman, You remember what hare at, whatever. Because after the word you don't care anymore. If he says, this is all about you, that's it, we're married. Because that's what marriage is. What's love got to do with it? So what do you think? Still want love? You hear this comedian who said, I always wondered, at a wedding, the bride wears a special gown. Nobody else wears that gown. So you can immediately tell who the bride is. But the groom, I'm talking about non-Jewish, but the groom is wearing the same tuxedo that all the other men are wearing. In fact, they rent it all in the same place. Why is that? He says, I never understood that until I listened to the vows. In the secular vows, do you take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband? This man. They don't give a name. Because in case she says no, there's another guy, he's dressed. So you say, okay, fine, but come here. Do you take this man? No? Come on, there's got to be one you like. We don't do that. We don't do that. There's only one man in your life, and that's your husband. It's a completely different mentality. A woman says, I'm trying to get married for years. Where are all the men? I said, that's disgusting. All the men? She says, I mean a man. You never met a man. All these years you haven't met a man? She said, I mean somebody special. You never met anybody special? Where do you hang out? You met special men. Okay, they're married. Or they don't want to marry you, but they're special. She says, come on, I mean the one for me. I said, look how far we've come in 2 minutes. We started off with all the men, and now we're down to the one for me. So why can't you talk straight? How do you describe, what is the name, what is the word for the one for me? It's called husband. So you're not looking for all the men. You're not looking for a man. You're not looking for a special man. You're looking for your husband. That might be difficult to find. It might take a few years. But focus. You're not looking for men. So when people come and say, you know, the men today are all looking for... Who's talking about the men? You're looking for your husband. Forget the statistics. Where are all the men? All the men today are looking for... What do you care what the men are looking for? Find your husband. That's a much holier and much more Jewish attitude. There is a husband. He exists. Either you're married to him or you're going to be married to him. But to him. So this woman says, you know, I want to marry a guy who's really tall. I said, I'm sorry. Your husband already exists and he's short. What can I tell you? It's not like you can design your husband like a Mr. Potato Head. I want him to have these kinds of ears and this nose and I'm sorry. I met him yesterday. He's not tall, he's not dark, and he's not handsome. That's it. But he is your husband. So knowing there already is a husband, you never marry the wrong person. It's all arranged from 6,000 years ago, and this is who you're going to marry because this is who you're supposed to be married to. It's the other part of your neshama. Stop worrying. No one ever married the wrong person. Never. And even in those cases where you get divorced, you're divorcing the person you were supposed to be married to, which is why it's so painful. So Tevye's daughters ruined everything. They decided they're going to marry who they want. It's terrible. The anxiety, the nerves, the pressure, the tension, who, what, when, he loves me not. It's a mess. We know you're going to marry the person that God chose for you. You want tall? Sorry. He is your husband. Take it or leave it. And if God forbid there's a divorce, it doesn't mean you made a mistake. There are no mistakes. Ever. Because if you could marry the wrong person, you could be having the wrong children. This is getting very weird. If you marry the wrong man, which means you're marrying somebody else's husband, whose children are these? This is crazy. So just like you can't have somebody else's children, you can't have somebody else's husband. So relax, enjoy your marriage, enjoy your husband. Maybe you'll love him someday. Maybe he'll love you someday. But you're precious to each other. I can exist without you, but it's not a life. Yes? No? A little bit? We were going to have questions and answers, but we ran out of time. One question? One? Yes?
What are your thoughts about so many of the young divorcees, like ages 20 to 25? There seems to be some sort of pattern. I'm seeing it. I'm seeing a pattern of very young people who are divorced. So any thoughts about that?
Yeah, very quickly. The question is, what is this phenomenon of young people getting divorced? In other words, they get divorced a year or two after getting married, even less, right?
6 months.
So one of the problems is when you're dating, what are you looking at? When you're deciding to marry somebody, what do you base it on? You base it on many things. How does he look? What is his sense of humor? What does he do for a living? You look at many things because you don't really know him, right? So if you like all these things, you marry him. But once you decide to marry him, all those things have to become unimportant. Another way of saying it is, when you decide to marry him, it's all for selfish reasons. I like what I see. I like what... Once you marry him, you got to switch off that whole selfish thing and become selfless. People forget to do that. They forget to switch it off. Some people forget to switch it on. When they're dating, they act like they're married. When they're married, they start acting like they're dating. So when you're dating, you have to be selfish. Imagine a woman says, I'm going out with this guy, he's such a sweet guy. I don't know if I want to marry him, but I don't want to hurt his feelings. So you're going to marry him out of pity? You're supposed to be selfish right now, not sacrificing. So be very selfish when you're going out. Once you marry, you become completely selfless. Yes, now have Rahmanas on him. I mean, he has to put up with you. People forget to switch it off. So I get a phone call from a guy, he's married 3 months, and he says, we went out to a restaurant, I noticed something about her that, I said, whoa, you're not dating anymore. Stop noticing things about her like you're still examining and doing research. You're married, she's your wife. Whatever you notice, that's your problem. And 10 years from now, you can say, I noticed she has a little selfish streak in her. That's your wife. People forget to switch it off, and they keep dating. It's terrible. Once you're married, it doesn't matter. Yes, your wife is selfish. Yes, your wife is cruel. Yes, your wife is lazy. So what, you don't want to marry her? You're married 3 years already. Which is another thing. A husband has to take responsibility for his wife's feelings. I should be saying this to men, not to you. A husband can never say, look, marriage is 50-50, right? I did my 50%, that's it. I'm not doing any more until she does her 50%. No. If she is not doing her 50%, it's his job and his responsibility to make it happen. He can never step back and say, okay, I did my share. You don't have a share. It's your family. The whole thing is yours. So the husband says, but this is not my fault. Of course it's not your fault. It's your responsibility. So if a wife is not happy, the husband can't say, well, I'm happy. She must have some problem. It's her problem. Yeah, and it's your job to fix it, because you're the husband. But to step out? Never. Never. Here's something you should never do. You go to a restaurant with your husband, and he's a klutz. So in this restaurant, fancy, nice, expensive restaurant, he reaches over for something on the table, he spills the hot coffee on himself, knocks over the wine glass, makes a big tumult, everything breaks. And you turn to a total stranger at the other table, and you say, can you believe this? Can you believe this? He does this every time. In other words, for a moment now, you stepped out of the relationship, and you and this total stranger are now best friends. And the two of you are trying to make sense of this guy with the hot coffee all over himself. Don't step out. Don't all of a sudden become like, do I know you? Who is this guy? Don't do that. Imagine you go to the supermarket with your husband, and you load up the cart, $200 worth of food, and you get to the cash register, and you start looking in your purse, and you can't find your credit card, and you're looking, and he turns to the cashier, and he says, she does this every time. It's like all of a sudden the cashier is your best friend, and you want to commiserate together about this miserable woman who can't find her. Don't ever do that. When your husband makes a fool of himself, it's your problem. Don't step away and say, I don't know this guy. And when you make a fool of yourself, your husband is there to defend you, not walk away. So what did Tevye say to Golda? And what did she say? They were so smart in those days. He was an immature adult. Golda was mature. So he says, Golda, do you love me? She says, what? Did you just become a teenager? He says, do you love me? So she says, you know all the words? I don't know. For 25 years, I did, and I did. Right, right. So what do we see from this? What we see from this is that women back then were so naive and so primitive that they didn't even know what love meant. Is that what you... No. She said, do I love you? Listen to the question. Do I love you? Which means, are you getting my love? Am I giving you my love? For 25 years, I am yours. I, all of me, I gave myself to you. Does that include love? If you have all of me, so I gave myself to you. If that's not love, gute Nacht.